Right, so we're going to get into Module 9 of Unit 2, Ecosystem Services. So our learning goals for this lecture or this module are explain 4 categories of ecosystem services. And the other one is describe how human activities can disrupt ecosystem services. So, explain the 4 categories of ecosystem services. Humans rely on a few species for essential needs such as pollination, drinking water, flood prevention, and intrinsic value. Besides the species that rely on, there are other needs fulfilled by these ecosystems. So, ecosystem services was something that a lot of you struggled on the most recent FRQ test. And so, it's essentially what is the ecosystem providing for us? So ecosystems services include the big 4 categories: provisional, regulating, supporting, and cultural. Each ecosystem service has a monetary value applied to it. So provisions are considered goods humans can directly use, which include lumber, furs, natural rubber, prescription drugs, natural pharmaceuticals. It's pretty interesting. There was a anti-cancer drug that was developed out of a plant, the Pacific yew, and now that drug sells for $1.5 billion annually. Um, Obviously, you don't have to go too far to see what we use trees for: lumber, paper, that sort of thing, rubber for different materials in our houses, our car tires, that sort of thing. And then you don't really think we use furs, but we do use wool and things like that for our clothes, and cotton, and those sorts of things. So it's a big business in. Um, we need to keep our ecosystem safe because we don't know what plant will be the new cure for the new problem that we develop or we have, right? So there are different types of cancers out there. So which one of these plants or animals is going to give us what we need to solve that? So we need to keep our ecosystem safe. Other regulating systems or services help maintain the environment. Those include removal of carbon dioxide by plants, flood control, temperature control in forested areas. So, removal of carbon dioxide for plants, obviously, we know about that one with global warming. You can't really turn on the news or go on social media without hearing about it. So, currently, in the last couple of years, it has been on average that we put about 8 gigatons of carbon dioxide in the air. And plants right now, currently, they remove about half of that. So imagine if we didn't have plants, we'd have all that carbon dioxide in the air and not any oxygen. We would not be able to survive. So thank you, plants, for that. Flood control. So in the last video, I talked about how the forest fires in Colorado helped them, or excuse me, one of the consequences of that was a mudslide, and that's because they did not have the plant roots there holding in the soil because they'd all burned down, and so there was nothing preventing that from happening. Well, now with plants and different greenery and wetlands and things like that, it helps control floods so it doesn't affect us as much. Living in Jeff City, Missouri, floods are something that we do have to deal with because we do have the river. And so hopefully, if we started planting back up and letting those areas kind of grow back, we'd have a little bit more control over the floods. And then finally, temperature control in forested areas. So a lot of people think that the desert is just hot all the time, but at night it gets really cold, and that's because there's no trees or anything like that to hold the temperature down into the area that we are living in. Whereas here in Missouri, your temperature swings from night and day are not going to be that drastic just because we do have all that foliage and forest and things like that to keep our temperature pretty stable. Other supporting services that would be costly for humans to generate can include pollination. So the Institute of Biological Services estimates that crop pollination in the United States by native bees was worth roughly about $3 billion in food production, and that doesn't even include pest management services. So our bats and things like that are eating some of our bugs that are pests to our crops, and our bees. And just bees alone was that that $3 billion number. But we also can thank butterflies and bats and hummingbirds and things like that. So $3 billion for food, that's a lot of money and a lot of food grown to feed our people. Healthy ecosystems also remove a lot of pathogens. So again, pathogens are like the bacteria that make us sick. And so if they're in the water, typically our plants that are in the water and our algae remove that for us, so we don't have to filter it even more if we have a healthy ecosystem going. But if we don't, then it's on us. And something that's interesting that your book talks about on page 108, um, says that in New York City, they make sure to take care of the Catskills Mountains because those do a lot of water filtering. And so to build a filtration plant that addresses this problem would cost up to $6 to $8 billion. And so for that reason, the city of New York has determined that it is more fiscally responsible to make sure that they take care of that natural area of the Catskills Mountains where they get a lot of their water from for New York City, because it does a natural filtration for us. So our ecosystems don't just look pretty and serve different functions for animals, but they're also economically benefiting us by protecting them. Okay. So all that stuff has a dollar amount tied to it, which is pretty interesting. And then finally, we have cultural services, so that are intrinsic or aesthetic benefits for certain groups of people, and that can include natural beauty to draw visitors and religious and cultural values. So, natural beauty, you think of oceans or mountains or dunes of the desert or ice caps or Alaska. And so obviously it's pretty easy to see the monetary value that that has, because those are going to draw in tourists. I know I like to go to the beach because it's pretty to look at and fun to be in. I also like to go to the mountains because it's just breathtaking views everywhere you turn, right? And so uh, while the mountains or the beach isn't directly getting my money, that is tourism dollars that filters into those economies, and hopefully they can use that money to protect those areas. And then you also have, again, the religious and cultural values. So, islander countries or cultures really have a great respect for the ocean because it is something they live off of and it provides them with a way of life. So they want to protect it, right? So speaking of money, ecosystem services can now be assigned monetary values by economists. So you guys watched that video of what is a whale worth, right? So if we were to place a dollar value on what it cost and what a whale is worth, it's way more efficient for countries in the world to take care of them than it is to hunt them for what resources they have. So ways that applying monetary value of services can include replacement values. What's the cost to replace that natural ecosystem? For example, the Catskills Mountains, where the water filters naturally. That's $8 billion. That's a lot of money, right? Okay. Property values to nearest to natural ecosystem and services. So what are those people paying to live there, and how does that benefit the economy? So people pay a lot of money to live in the mountains, and that trickles down into schools and hospitals and roads because they can charge more money for those things because people want to live there. So why not charge more money, right? And benefit off of this natural beauty and protecting it. Okay, and then what does it look like for time and services, the amount of money that people are willing to spend to visit these natural areas like national parks? So, to get into Rocky Mountain National Park, there's a fee. You can't just walk in there, right? You have to pay some money to get in there. And that money is going towards the local economies, protecting that area, protecting the ecosystems to keep them going. One crazy number, right, is on this slide. It's estimated yearly worth of ecosystem services uh, in the world is $125 trillion, or two times the global economy. So right now, your stocks and your trades and your products and all that stuff is not even half that, right? It's two times a global economy. So that's a lot of money that our ecosystems can provide for us if we use them appropriately, right? Okay, so now we're on our next topic that we need to cover, and that's 9.2, describe how human activities can disrupt ecosystem services. So we've already talked about specific economic values can be attached to ecosystem services, how the removal of habitats can reduce biodiversity, and much of our food production worldwide still relies on these ecosystems. So, fish stocks have altered globally, leading to an increase in aquaculture, which is capture and farming of fish. And so, this is a pretty interesting uh, graphic here. So, it shows the increase of millions of tons of fish that we are consuming from 1950 to looks like 2018, 2019, right? And so from the 50s to about the 19, we'll say 75, the only real way that we were getting fish was by capturing them and eating them, right? But then there seemed to be a takeoff in aquaculture. And so, aquaculture, if you don't know what aquaculture is, it is the farming of fish, shellfish, and seaweed. So, they will build these facilities or dig out these ponds and keep fish that way, right? And while our main source of fish is still being captured, as you can tell, like right here, so drawing this line is captured. Um, we are seeing a rapid increase in aquaculture, which is arguably more sustainable, right? And so these fish are getting to stay where they are and not being fished to extinction, which is positive. Like we're doing a good job during that. So hopefully in the next 10 or 20 years, this number will be way down and this number will be way up, right? And we're doing sustainable farming and seeing that benefit of not hurting these marine ecosystems. Other services that are also being affected by overuse is water availability. So while we're finding new water sources and the amount of water we have over the last couple years or last 50 years has increased, we're still not using them very sustainably. And that's an issue because our growing global population, everybody needs water to survive, right? Your body is 70% water. We need water for food. We need water for usually like waste management, taking care of our digestive stuff, right? We need to filter that in and out. And we have to figure out a way to use it sustainably. Some people or areas use water for electricity, hydroelectricity. And so, if we don't figure out a way to use that water appropriately, we're going to lose it and we're going to have to cut back and ration water. And so, you hear of droughts and things like that. And this past summer, 2023, Missouri went through one of the worst droughts it's been through since the 1970s. And fortunately, we have an area where water is pretty plentiful. But imagine if you didn't know if water was coming, how would that affect your plant growth and how would that affect your economy, right? And so that's water is another ecosystem service that we cannot afford to lose. And so having fresh water, we need that as well as fresh, clean water. Okay, so if we don't have clean water, it doesn't really make a difference because you can't drink it without getting sick. And then finally, the last part of this module talks about pollinators have been affected by disease and pesticides. So I recommend you going and looking up about the hive collapse issue. And so these honeybee hives are collapsing for apparently an unknown reason. Scientists think that it might be a disease or something that these bees are picking up off of pesticides, which are farmers, not all farmers, but a lot of farmers are using on their crops to try to keep other unwanted insects off of them. So that way they grow a little bit taller and faster and produce more fruit. But it's having a negative consequence on our pollination. And we determined that that was a $3 billion business in the last couple of years annually, right? So we got to save our bees. We only have about 4 years left after our bees are gone for humans to figure out how to pollinate all those things and keep us in business. And that was module number 9 for unit 2. Let me know if you have any questions.